The encounter. The stars were quiet. The space was dark and endless. But suddenly, a human cargo ship came crashing through the silence. Jake Carter, a young space pilot, was trying to fix his control panel. Sparks flew. Alarms beeped loudly. His ship had picked up a strange distress signal, a short, broken message in a language he didn't understand. Signal. Broken. Help. He didn't want to go, but curiosity pulled him in. Jake changed his course toward the signal. Minutes later, something hit his ship. Hard crash. The ship spiraled and dropped fast toward a nearby planet. Fire burst from the side. Jake pulled hard on the controls, trying not to die. The ship slammed into the ground, sliding over rocks and dust. Metal screamed. Then, silence. Jake slowly opened his eyes. Blood dripped from his forehead. Everything hurt, but he was alive. Outside, the sky was a strange color, purple with black clouds. The air was thin but breathable. The place felt wrong. Too quiet. He grabbed his small survival bag and stepped out of the wreck. Suddenly, he noticed something strange. A dark red trail on the ground. Blood? But not human blood. It glowed faintly, like lava. Jake followed the trail. It led to a set of large rocks, and behind them, an open cave. He hesitated. "This is stupid," he whispered to himself. But he stepped inside anyway. The cave was cold and deep. Water dripped from the ceiling. The trail continued, getting brighter. Then he saw her. A figure lying near the back of the cave. She was breathing, but barely. Her body was covered in strange armor, dark like midnight. Her skin was light blue, with deep glowing wounds on her side. One of her arms had sharp claws. Her eyes were closed, but she looked dangerous, even in pain. Jake stared. He had never seen a creature like her. Alien, he whispered. But she wasn't just any alien. She looked young, maybe his age, and beautiful in a strange, wild way. Her long white hair was messy, stuck to her face. She looked like a warrior. Jake slowly stepped closer. She didn't move. He reached into his bag, took out a small med kit, and knelt beside her. "I just want to help," he said softly. He opened the bandages, trying to clean the glowing wound. Suddenly, her hand shot out and grabbed his throat. Jake froze. Her eyes opened, glowing like fire. She looked into his eyes with hate. Her grip was strong. Jake couldn't breathe, but he didn't fight back. He just looked at her. "I'm not your enemy," he whispered with the little air he had. Her claws pressed harder, but her eyes showed something else now. Confusion. Maybe curiosity. He pointed to her wound. "You're bleeding," he said. She stared at him for a few more seconds. Then slowly, her grip loosened. She let go. Jake coughed and backed away. But he didn't leave. She didn't attack again. She just watched him. He reached out again carefully. She flinched but didn't stop him. This time Jake cleaned her wound and wrapped it with a bandage. He worked in silence. She didn't speak a word. After a few minutes, he leaned back. "There. That should help," he said. She looked down at the bandage, then at him. Jake smiled, trying to look friendly. "I'm Jake," he said. He pointed to himself. "Jake." She didn't reply. Instead, she looked at the entrance of the cave, then back at him. Her body stayed tense. She didn't trust him. Not yet. Jake stood up and gave her a small light from his bag. "I'll be outside," he said. As he turned to leave, he felt her eyes watching him the whole time. Outside the cave, Jake built a small fire using sticks and energy gel. Night came fast on this planet. The air turned colder. Jake sat by the fire thinking, who was she? Why was she hurt? What was that signal? Suddenly he heard a sound. Footsteps. He looked up, and saw her. The alien girl was standing near the fire, still weak, still silent, but her eyes looked different now. Not angry, just tired. Jake reached into his bag and took out a protein bar. He broke it in half and held one piece out to her. She didn't move at first. Then, slowly, she took it. She sat near the fire, a few feet away, still watching him. They ate in silence. Under the alien sky, a human and an alien girl sat by a small fire, both alone, both broken, both unsure. Jake didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing. This girl was not just a stranger. She was a story waiting to begin. The Hunter and the Healer. The fire cracked gently in the silence of the alien night. Jake sat with his knees pulled up to his chest, watching the strange blue girl from the corner of his eye. She hadn't said a word. She just stared at the flames, her face still, unreadable. Her glowing eyes flickered like the firelight. She looked calm, but her body was always alert, like a wild animal ready to run or strike. Jake didn't dare move too fast. She had nearly crushed his throat just hours ago. Still, she accepted the food, and she sat beside him. That was something. He didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. In the morning, she was gone. Panic hit him. He stood, looked around. No blood trail, no sign. Had she healed enough to walk? Or had she crawled away to die alone? Damn it, Jake whispered. He rushed to the cave, heart pounding. But as he reached the entrance, she stepped out, covered in dirt and leaves, holding a sharp stick like a spear. Her glowing eyes narrowed when she saw him. Jake raised both hands quickly. "Whoa, easy," she paused, then slowly lowered the stick. Jake noticed something strange. Her limp was worse now. She had pushed herself too hard. She collapsed to one knee. Jake ran forward to help, but she growled at him, a low, threatening sound. Animal-like. Her pride was stronger than her pain. Still, she didn't stop him when he offered his arm. He helped her back into the cave. Over the next 2 days, Jake tried everything to win her trust. He cooked for her using his survival rations. He offered water. He even played music from his communicator, a soft earth melody. She didn't react much. But he noticed something. Her eyes didn't glare as much anymore. They watched, curious, learning. He spoke to her every day. Simple words, slow voice like teaching a child. "This is food, food, good." She didn't reply, but she listened. He pointed to himself. "Jake," then pointed to her. "What's your name?" She didn't answer. He tried again. "You." "Name?" She looked at him for a long time, then whispered something low, rough, alien. "Elira." Her voice was deep, strange yet soft. Jake smiled. "Elira. That's a beautiful name." She tilted her head as if trying to understand. He wrote it on a rock using burnt wood. "Elira." She stared at the letters like they were a puzzle. Then, she picked up the charcoal and below his writing she drew a symbol, a jagged circle with a sharp star in the middle. Jake leaned closer. "What's that?" She looked at it, then at him. Slowly, she placed her hand on the drawing. "Hunter," she said. Jake swallowed. The word felt cold. "Hunter?" he asked. She nodded, then pointed to herself. "Elira. The Hunter." Later that day, Jake found her armor. It had been hidden behind some rocks in the cave. Black, damaged, scorched. One side had a large hole, probably from a plasma weapon. On the shoulder was a mark, a human military logo. Jake stared at it in shock. His heart raced. Why would a human army shoot her? Or was she the enemy? When Elira saw him holding the armor, her expression changed. Her face hardened. She stepped forward quickly and snatched it from his hands. She backed away, holding it tight. Her eyes were full of pain and rage. Jake raised his hands. I didn't mean to. She pointed at the human logo. They kill, she said. Her voice trembled. She pointed to her wound, then made a slicing motion across her throat. Jake understood. Human soldiers shot her. He sat down quiet. So she wasn't just any alien. She was a soldier. And the humans saw her as a threat, or worse. Maybe they ambushed her. Jake reached into his survival bag. He had collected some debris from his crash site earlier. Inside was a small object, a silver locket. He had found it near the wreck, half buried in the dirt. It was strange, shaped like a teardrop, glowing slightly. He held it out to her. She froze. Her eyes widened. Illyra stepped forward like in a trance. She gently took the locket from his hands and opened it. Inside was a small, moving hologram of another alien girl. Same white hair, same blue skin, but younger. Smiling, Illyra's lips parted slightly. She whispered, Syria. Jake watched her fall to her knees. She didn't cry, but her body shook. She held the locket close to her chest. Jake slowly sat beside her. Neither of them spoke for a long time, but something had changed. That night, the wind howled outside the cave. A storm rolled in across the hills. Jake was fixing the power cell from his ship's scanner, hoping to get a signal again. Maybe he could call for help. Illyra was quiet, staring at the locket. Suddenly, the scanner beeped. Signal found. Jake's heart jumped. Yes. He opened the screen. A faint voice came through. Rescue en route. Hold position. He looked at Illyra. They found me. She didn't answer. Then the signal changed. A second one appeared, encrypted. Military code. Jake frowned. Wait, this isn't mine. He tapped the screen. A warning flashed. Locate target. Eliminate alien. Survivor. Jake froze. He turned to Illyra. She was already standing, eyes glowing again, but not with anger. Fear. She backed away, shaking her head. No. No. Jake stood too. I didn't know, I didn't send that, but it didn't matter. She thought he had betrayed her. Illyra grabbed her weapon and ran into the storm. Jake ran after her. Wait. Stop. I didn't call them. But the wind was too loud. Lightning lit up the sky. Rain fell hard. She vanished into the darkness. And just like that, the girl he had saved was gone again. But Jake wasn't about to lose her, not now. Silent connection. Rain fell hard over the alien jungle. It painted the trees in silver and soaked the dirt to black. Thunder rolled like distant drums. And under that sky, Jake ran. Branches whipped his face. Mud pulled at his boots. But he didn't. Stop. He couldn't. Illyra, he shouted again. No answer. Only the sound of water, wind, and his own heartbeat. She had disappeared into the storm after seeing the message, the encrypted military code calling for her death. Jake didn't blame her. He would have run too. But now he had to find her. Not just to explain, but because he cared. Deep down, more than he wanted to admit, he didn't want to lose her. He searched for hours. The rain made it harder. Erased tracks, flooded trails, blurred his vision. The trees twisted like monsters in the dark. Then he saw something, a glowing trail on the ground. Faint, flickering. Blood. Her blood. Jake followed, his heart pounding louder with each step. He reached a small canyon. At the bottom, under a rocky overhang, he saw her. Illyra sat curled up, her back against the wall, her head resting on her knees. Her spear was beside her, her armor thrown aside. She looked broken. Jake slowly climbed down. She looked up. Her eyes no longer glowed with fire. They were filled with something else. Pain. Jake approached carefully and sat a few feet away. He didn't speak right away. The wind howled over them, but in that small cave it was quiet. Like the world had paused. He finally spoke. I didn't call them, Elira. She didn't respond. They're not coming for me, he said. They're coming for you. She turned her head slightly, her face hard. He sighed. I don't know why, but I think someone wants you dead. Elira's voice was cold, low. Humans lie. Jake looked at her. I'm not lying. He reached into his bag, pulled out his communicator, slowly handed it to her. She stared at it, then took it. She tapped a few buttons, her fingers fast. The screen lit up with data. Jake watched as her eyes scanned the code. A tear formed, then stopped halfway down her cheek. Code is from Black Ops. Human Shadow Unit, she whispered. She dropped the device like it burned her. Jake leaned forward. You know them? She nodded slowly. They killed my sister. Jake swallowed hard. The girl in the locket? Syria. Elira clenched her fists. She was a scout, peace mission. Human soldiers pretended to help, then ambushed us. Jake looked down. The guilt wasn't his, but he felt it anyway. I believe you. She looked at him. For the first time, her eyes searched his face. Not with suspicion, but with something new. Hope. The next morning, the rain stopped. A strange fog covered the jungle. Light filtered through slowly like the planet was trying to wake up after a nightmare. Jake made a fire, but this time Elira joined him without fear. She still didn't say much, but her body was calm now. Jake passed her a piece of fruit he found. She took it, nodded. For a moment it felt normal, like peace was possible here. Jake smiled and drew a picture on the ground with a stick, 2 stars orbiting each other. Binary stars, he said. 2 stars that always stay close, even in space. Elira looked at the drawing, then pointed at 1 star. Hunter, then the other. Healer. Jake chuckled. That's one way to put it. She gave a tiny smile. The first he had seen, it was beautiful, not because of her face, but because it meant she was healing. Not just her body, but her heart. Later that day, Elira stood and motioned for Jake to follow her. She led him through the jungle, limping slightly but moving with purpose. They reached an old alien ruin, part of her people's outpost, long abandoned. The metal walls were broken, the roof half melted, burn marks were everywhere. She showed him a wall with carved images. It told a story. Alien figures. Human figures. Then fire, death, betrayal. Elira touched a carving of a young girl. Syria. Jake saw another figure beside her, tall, armed, fierce. You? She nodded, then drew a finger across the wall, erasing part of the human image. But not all humans bad. She looked at him. Some good. Jake's throat tightened. He didn't know what to say. She stepped closer, looked into his eyes. You. Different. That night, they returned to the cave. Jake adjusted the scanner to pick up signals again. Nothing yet, but he knew someone would come soon, either rescue or death. Elira cleaned her weapon in silence. Jake spoke quietly. You don't have to run anymore. I'll protect you. She looked at him with soft eyes. You are not a soldier. Jake smiled. No, just a cargo pilot. And now, your friend. Elira tilted her head. Friend? Jake reached out and touched her hand gently. Yeah, friend. She didn't pull away. Suddenly the scanner beeped again. Jake jumped up, a red signal blinked. Unidentified ship, entering orbit. He looked at Elira. Her face turned sharp again. She grabbed her weapon. Jake stared at the screen. No ID. No rescue code. It's them. Elira's body tensed. She looked at Jake. They found me. He nodded. Then, we fight, she looked surprised. You fight with me? Jake smiled. I'm not leaving you, Elira. And in that moment, without a single word more, a silent connection formed between them. Not human, not alien, something beyond that. 2 broken souls, preparing for war, together. The truth revealed. The night air was still, too still. Jake stared at the blinking red dot on the scanner screen. It hovered in orbit above the planet like a hungry predator waiting for its prey to step outside. Illyra stood beside him, her body quiet, but her eyes burning. She wasn't just alert, she was ready. "They will not wait long," she said. "They never do." Jake nodded. "So what do we do?" Illyra stepped toward the edge of the cave. She stared at the jungle below, her long white hair blowing gently in the cold wind. "We hunt them first." Jake's breath caught in his throat. "Wait, you want to go to them?" She turned to face him. "You healed me. You stayed. Now, I fight not just for me. I fight for both of us." He looked into her eyes and knew she meant it. This wasn't survival anymore. It was personal. They moved quickly, silently, through the jungle. Illyra led, the way like a ghost between the trees. Her limp had faded, replaced by a graceful, deadly pace. Jake followed close, his hand on his sidearm, scanning the trees for movement. As they climbed a ridge, Illyra held up her fist and froze. Jake stopped, instantly. Below them, in a clearing, a black military drop pod stood tall, humming softly with power. It hadn't been there before. Beside it, 3 figures in matte black armor moved like shadows. Their helmets reflected no light. Each carried a high-tech rifle strapped with alien energy packs. Illyra's voice was low and filled with disgust. "Blackstrike," Jake whispered. "What?" "Secret human unit, not army, not law, ghosts. They kill what government denies." Jake's stomach twisted. "Why are they after you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she turned and led him back down the hill toward a narrow ravine. They climbed down into a small hidden cavern lit by glowing moss. Inside were alien carvings and broken machines, forgotten tech from Illyra's people. Jake looked around in awe. "What is this place?" Illyra touched one of the walls. "Old station, from war before, when we first met humans." She pressed a hidden switch. A small compartment opened in the wall. Inside, a hologram. Projector, still glowing faintly. She turned it on. A recording played. A group of aliens sat around a circular table. Illyra was among them, younger, armored, confident. Beside her was her sister, Syria. The two looked at a human officer across the table. "Our offer is peace," the officer said. "We accept," Illyra replied. Then, gunfire. The video glitched, violently. Screams, blood. The last image. Syria falling to the ground. Illyra turned off the hologram. Jake stood frozen. "Why did they do that?" Illyra whispered, almost like a confession. "They wanted our tech, our cloaking fields, our stealth weapons. Syria said no." Jake clenched his fists. So that was it. Greed, as old as history. "They betrayed the truce." Illyra nodded. "And I survived, so they hunt me, to erase the truth." Suddenly a sound echoed through the cave, static. Jake's communicator blinked. A voice came through, distorted but clear enough. "Cargo pilot Jake Carter. You are harboring a Class Red alien fugitive. Surrender her and you will not be harmed." Jake stared at the device. Illyra's jaw tightened. "They tracked your signal." Jake picked up the communicator. "No deal," he said. "This is not your fight, pilot." Jake looked at Illyra, then back. "It is now." That night they set traps. Illyra showed Jake how to rig plasma mines and motion-sensing charges from broken tech. She taught him how to move without leaving sound. He showed her how to reroute the energy lines for stronger shields. 2 species, 1 mission. Jake found her staring at the stars later, silent again. He sat beside her. "You okay?" She didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, "I was born, a weapon, trained to kill, to obey." She looked down at her glowing hand. "But you taught me something else." Jake tilted his head. What's that? Elira looked at him, eyes soft now. To choose. The next day, it began. The Flak Strike unit descended into the jungle, moving fast. They spread out in formation, scanning the terrain, but the jungle had changed. It belonged to Elira now. The first mine exploded near a shallow stream. One soldier down, the second stepped into a trap net, lifted into the air, and shocked into unconsciousness. The third was tougher. He moved like a machine, blasting trees apart with a heavy plasma rifle. Jake and Elira waited on a ridge above. When he passed under them, they dropped. Jake landed hard, smashing his rifle into the man's helmet. Sparks flew. Elira spun and stabbed her spear into his side. He fell, alive, but broken. Jake panted. That was the last one? Elira shook her head. No, one more. Then a slow clap echoed behind them. They turned. A tall figure stepped out of the shadows. His armor was darker than night, and his voice like metal scraping glass. Hello, Elira. She froze. Jake looked at her. You know him? She nodded, slowly. Commander Voss. He killed Syria. Jake raised his gun, but the man was faster. He fired, hitting Jake in the shoulder. Jake fell back with a cry. Elira screamed, rage exploding from her throat. She rushed Voss, blades in both hands. The two clashed like lightning, steel and fire, speed and fury. Voss moved like a trained assassin. But Elira fought with emotion, with heart, and that gave her power. She ducked under his strike and stabbed deep into his side. He grunted. You've gotten soft, he spat. Letting humans make you weak. She held her blade steady. No. I became strong when I stopped being your weapon. She twisted the blade. Voss fell to his knees. Jake limped up, holding his side. You okay? He asked. Elira nodded. Then, she looked at Voss, bleeding, defeated, but alive. Jake stepped forward. We take him back. Let the world see the truth. Elira hesitated. Then she nodded. Truth must live. Hours later, a real rescue ship landed. Jake gave them the recorded proof. Voss's confession, the hologram, the data. The government couldn't deny it now. The Black Strike unit had betrayed a peace mission. And Elira? She was no longer a fugitive. She was a survivor. A witness. In the days that followed, Jake and Elira stayed together. She stood in the human base, now free to walk without fear. Jake looked at her and smiled. You're not a weapon anymore. She smiled back, gently, for real this time. No. I am me. The Battle of Loyalties. The stars above the human base blinked like silent watchers. Inside the command room, bright lights, quiet footsteps, and cold metal walls replaced the wildness of the jungle. But peace didn't follow. Not really. Elira stood beside Jake, her arms crossed, eyes locked on the holoscreen. The image floating above the table showed Commander Voss, locked in a glass chamber, sedated but alive. Alongside his recorded confession and recovered data, the truth was now undeniable. The Black Strike unit had violated human law and committed murder under secret orders. Human command officers, diplomats, and military analysts were all whispering around the room. Some praised Jake. Others kept side eyes locked on Elira as if she still didn't belong. She could feel their fear. They call me a survivor, she whispered to Jake, but they still look at me like a weapon. Jake placed a hand on her shoulder. You're not what they think, a voice interrupted. No, she's something much more. A tall woman stepped through the doorway. Her skin was silver gray, her uniform decorated with glowing red symbols. Elira's heart dropped. Jake turned. Who is she? Elira's voice was low and shaken. General Kane, my mother's sister, leader of my homeworld's elite guard. Kane stopped in front of Elira. You live, niece, but you wear no crest, no flag. You ally with a human. Why? Elira straightened. Because he stood by me, when our own people didn't. Kane raised an eyebrow. I did not come for your reasons. I came because of your signal, and because our council saw this. She pointed to the screen. A human force killing one of our scouts, hiding it, denying it. Jake stepped forward. We exposed them. Kane turned to him. You also hit Elira. That makes you guilty by law. Jake froze. Wait, what? Elira stepped between them. He saved me. He didn't know. Kane's voice was sharp. It does not matter. The council fears weakness. And now, they demand proof of your loyalty. Elira narrowed her eyes. What kind of proof? Kane leaned close. Kill the human on record, then return home a hero. The silence that followed was deafening. Jake stared at Elira, stunned. She didn't move. She didn't blink. The next hour passed in slow motion. Elira didn't say a word. She sat alone in a small observation chamber, head bowed, staring at the floor. Jake watched her from the hallway. He didn't try to go in. He knew she needed space. But the fear inside him grew heavier. Would she really do it, could she? He wanted to believe no, but part of him remembered the girl who had once grabbed his throat in a cave, eyes glowing with rage. She was capable of killing. But was she still that same person? That night, Elira stood on the roof of the human base. The stars above felt farther away than ever. Cold wind brushed her face. Jake stepped beside her, silent. They want me to kill you, she said without turning. Jake nodded slowly. I know. If I don't, they will call me a traitor, weak, a disgrace to my bloodline. She turned, now eyes filled with fire and sorrow. And if I do, I lose what little soul I have left. Jake swallowed. Then don't. She looked down. You don't understand. In my world, loyalty is everything. We are born into duty, no choice. Jake stepped closer. Then break the chain. Start your own path. Elira looked at him with something deeper than fear. What if I'm too late? Jake reached out and held her hand. You're right on time, but time was running out. The next morning, General Kane gave her an ultimatum. 1 hour to decide. Kill the human in front of a neutral council broadcast, or be marked as exiled forever, stripped of her name, her rank, and her honor. Kane left, her alone in the chamber with a blade. Jake stood across from her. His hands were open. No fight, no fear, just trust. If this is the end, he said softly, then I'm glad I met you. Elira closed her eyes, then stepped forward. She raised the blade. Everyone behind the glass held their breath. Then, she stabbed the ground. The blade cracked the floor, not Jake. No more death, she said. I am not a weapon. I am me. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Kane slammed her fist against the control panel. You shame your people. Elira turned toward the glass. Then let them be shamed. She walked to Jake and stood beside him. This human showed me more honor. Than any blood oath, I choose him and I choose peace. But peace was not ready to arrive. At that moment, alarms rang through the base. An emergency alert flashed across all screens. Incoming hostile ships. Unmarked, high-energy signatures. Jake rushed to the scanner. His heart sank. They're not human. Not yours either. Who are they? Elira looked at the signal signature and whispered almost in dread. Outlanders. Jake frowned. Outlanders? She turned to him. Mercenaries from dead systems. Killers. Pirates. They follow conflict like vultures. Someone paid them to erase us all. Kane's voice came through the intercom. Prepare for battle. All forces arm up. Explosions rocked the landing. Zone within minutes. Outlander dropships punched through the base's shields. They came in waves. Black armor, red visors, howling war cries. Jake grabbed a rifle. Elira spun her twin blades. Side by side, they fought. Inside narrow corridors, Jake fired with perfect timing, while Elira danced like lightning, slicing through enemies, protecting his blind spots. She was no longer running. She was leading. Kayan joined the battle as well, blasting enemies from the sky with her heavy energy cannon. She fought beside her niece without words, but her face held something new. Respect. After the third wave was pushed back, Kayan turned to Elira. You made your choice, and now I see. It was not weakness. It was strength. Elira simply nodded. I don't want your throne. I want a future. By dawn, the Outlanders were gone, defeated and scattered. The base was damaged, but still standing. And Jake and Elira, still alive, still together. That evening, as the stars returned, Jake looked at her. Do you think your people will accept us? Elira smiled faintly. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday they will have to, because we are already real. Jake nodded. Together? Together. The gentle kitten. The war was over, at least for now. The jungle world, once filled with danger, shadow, and betrayal, was silent under a peaceful sky. The wind whispered through the trees. The fires were out. Smoke had cleared. Bodies had been recovered. The wounded were treated. Jake Carter stood on the edge of the cliff overlooking the valley where the last battle had taken place. Burnt earth, stretched in streaks, but greenery had already begun creeping back, life refusing to quit. Behind him, Elira approached. No armor, no blades. Just a simple cloak wrapped around her shoulders and her long silver-white hair drifting with the wind. She was barefoot and smiling. It had been 2 days since the Outlander attack, since she had stood beside Jake, not as a soldier or weapon, but as something more. Alive, free-changing. Jake turned and saw her approach. He blinked twice, surprised. Is that my hoodie? Elira looked down at the oversized gray hoodie draped awkwardly over her alien frame. It nearly reached her knees. She looked back at him and narrowed her glowing eyes with mock confusion. I found it in your crate. It is soft. I like soft. Jake chuckled. Well, you look like a kitten trying to be fierce. She tilted her head. Kitten? Jake laughed harder. It's an earth animal. Small. Fluffy. Tries to act tough, but mostly just curls up and purrs. Elira crossed her arms. I do not purr. Jake grinned. Not yet. She stepped forward and sat beside him on the rock. For a long while, they just watched the clouds. Quiet, peaceful. Then she spoke, her voice softer than ever before. Do you remember the cave? Jake nodded. Yeah, I thought you were going to kill me. I almost did. Jake turned to look at her. She didn't smile. Not now. I was trained to kill. I had no home, no warmth, only duty, claws, teeth, orders. She looked down at her hands. The claws were still there, but she hadn't used them in days. You changed that. Jake said nothing. He just placed a hand on hers. She squeezed his fingers gently. I don't know what I am anymore, she whispered. You're Elira, Jake said. That's all that matters. Later that evening, as the stars returned and the base lights dimmed, Elira visited the small memorial set up near the edge of the jungle. A glowing symbol floated above it, the crest of her sister Syria. She knelt before it. And for the first time, she cried, not with screams, not with anger, but with stillness. Jake stayed back, watching. He knew this was her moment, and she needed to feel it fully. That night, she didn't sleep in the guest barracks or her assigned quarters. She found Jake's room, knocked once, and stepped inside. He was reading a datapad when she entered. I can't sleep, she said softly. Jake moved over, offering her space. She sat on the floor beside his bed and rested her head on the edge. Your world is too quiet at night. Jake smiled. Too quiet for a hunter? Too quiet for a girl. with too many memories. He put the datapad away and leaned back, looking at the ceiling. You want me to talk until you fall asleep? She hesitated. Yes. He told her about Earth, about loud city streets, music festivals, fried food, cats that climbed walls, and rainy afternoons spent under blankets. She laughed once, a quiet, real sound. Then her breathing slowed. She had fallen asleep, peaceful, safe. For the first time in her life, no weapons near her hand, no armor, no fear, only Jake and warmth. The next morning, Elira woke to the sound of an argument outside the base. She stepped out and saw General Kane speaking with a tall alien man in dark robes, an ambassador from their homeworld. His voice was cold. She refused an order. She ran with a human. She exposed our dishonor. We cannot let that stand. Kane tried to reason, but it was clear. Her people were not done with her even after the war, even after the truth. They still wanted her back. Jake stood beside her. They won't let you go. Elira clenched her fists. Then I won't go back. Jake nodded. We'll leave, find somewhere else, quiet. Elira looked at him. With you? He smiled. Always. But the choice wouldn't be that simple. That afternoon, the base received an encrypted message from an unknown source. It wasn't military. It wasn't political. It was personal. And it was for Elira. She stepped into the comms room and played it alone. A shaky voice came through. If you can hear this and we are alive, in hiding, not all of us agree with the council. You are not alone. There are others, waiting for someone brave enough to break the cycle. The voice cut off. No name, no location, just hope. Elira stared at the screen. Someone from her world had sent it. A rebel, a survivor, a chance. Jake entered a moment later. She looked at him. They need me. Jake paused. Then we'll go. She raised an eyebrow. We? Jake walked closer, placing a hand over her heart. I didn't fall for a soldier. I fell for the girl who made her own path. Wherever you go, I go. Her voice trembled slightly. Even if it's dangerous? He smiled. I've seen you take down a squad of outlanders in a hoodie. I'll take my chances. That night before they left, Elira stood by the jungle edge one last time. She touched her own chest. Once, I was a fierce weapon. Then I became a hunted ghost. Now, she looked over her shoulder at Jake, who waited by the shuttle. Now I am something new. Not hunter, not prey. She smiled softly. Now I am free. As the shuttle lifted off, her old world vanished into the clouds. Elira sat beside Jake, her eyes on the stars. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was running. She felt like she was going home, wherever that was. A new path. The stars stretched wide around the ship like an ocean of diamonds. Elira stood at the viewport of the small transport cruiser, silent, wrapped in the same gray hoodie she had grown to love. Her silver hair drifted over her shoulder. Her claws retracted, her blades locked away. Beside her, Jake adjusted the ship's course, his fingers dancing across the glowing controls. ETA, 3 hours, he said softly. Elira didn't respond, right away. Her eyes were locked on the star ahead, the coordinates traced back to the signal. The one message that had changed everything. They're waiting for us, she finally said. People like me, rebels, outcasts, survivors. Jake looked at her. Are you ready? She turned to him, voice steady. I was born ready. I just didn't know what for. The planet below came into view, not on any official chart, dark and ringed by gas clouds. But lights twinkled on its surface like embers in the ashes. As they descended, the ship passed through thick storms and mountains of static. Elira's eyes remained sharp. The silence between her and Jake wasn't fear, it was focus. A landing platform lit up beneath a broken spire. The ship touched down. The ramp opened slowly. Elira stepped into the wind. They were met by 4 figures, cloaked and hooded, their faces hidden. One stepped forward and removed her hood. An elder alien woman, face scarred, eyes sharp with age and pain. "You are Elira, daughter of the betrayed." Elira nodded. "You sent the message?" The woman nodded. "The council lied. But we, remember, we have waited for someone bold enough to break silence. Now you are here." Behind her, others stepped forward. Young fighters, injured veterans, families. Not soldiers, not rulers. People. Jake stepped beside Elira. "This is a rebellion," he whispered. Elira didn't blink. "No," she said. "This is justice." For the next week, they stayed hidden in the mountain base, beneath the planet's crust. Jake helped with technology repairs. Elira trained. The younger fighters taught them stealth, defense, survival. But something was shifting. The council had found out. On the 6th night, an emergency beacon pulsed across the base. "Council fleet approaching. ETA 9 hours. Panic spread. But Elira stood firm. "We knew this would happen, but we will not run. Not this time." Jake looked at her, both proud and terrified. "They'll outgun us." Elira shook her head. "Not if I speak first." She sent a transmission directly to the High Council's flagship. Her voice was calm, commanding. "This is Elira of the Karani bloodline, survivor of the Black Strike betrayal. You fear my truth, but the people no longer believe your silence. Come down, face me, or your lies burn with your honor." There was no reply, but the fleet didn't. Here, instead, one ship detached and descended. The flagship. It landed just beyond the rebel base. A glowing ramp opened. Elite guards emerged in perfect formation. Then, her mother stepped out. Queen General Saraxa, the woman Elira had not seen since her training days. Tall, cold, a symbol of everything Elira had broken free from. Jake stood beside Elira. "That's your mother?" Elira nodded once. "She trained me to never flinch." He looked at her. "You're flinching now?" "No." She stepped forward. The two women stood face to face. Saraxa's voice was like ice. "I warned you. You dishonor your name, your blood, your world." Elira met her gaze. "No. You dishonored it when you bowed to human lies. When you let your own die." Saraxa's eyes narrowed. "I protected our people." "You protected your power." Gasps echoed from nearby rebels. Saraxa turned to them. "She is broken, led by a human, tainted." Jake stepped forward. "She's more honorable than anyone standing in armor." Saraxa looked at him with disgust. "You speak as if you matter," Elira growled. "He does." She stepped in front of Jake. "He's not my weakness. He's the reason I didn't become you." The tension shattered like glass. Saraxa raised her hand. The guards raised their weapons. The rebels followed. A standoff. Elira raised her hand too, but not to fight. "We don't need blood today." "You came to kill me? Then do it. Let all of them see what loyalty means to you." Saraxa hesitated. For the first time, she lowered her hand. The guards did the same. "You have already died to me," Saraxa whispered. "Then I was never yours," Elira replied. The council ship returned to orbit, taking Saraxa with it. They had not won, not yet, but they had not been destroyed, and that was a beginning. Days passed. Word spread. Other hidden survivors came forward. Some old soldiers left the council's military. The silence was broken. And Elira? She sat with Jake on the edge of a cliff, overlooking a valley of lights below, a hidden city now alive with voices of freedom. She wore the hoodie again, but beneath it her new armor shined. It wasn't the black of war, it was silver and blue, the color of choice. Jake leaned against her. "So, what now?" Elira exhaled slowly. "Now, I lead, not with fear, but with truth." Jake grinned. "Sounds like a full-time job." "You'll help?" He smiled. "Always." She turned to him, placing her hand on his chest. You healed a wound I didn't know I had. You taught me to be more than sharp teeth and empty orders. I am no longer a weapon. She leaned in closer, her voice barely above a whisper. I am a girl who chooses to fight for love, Jake whispered back. Then we've already won. Above them, stars continued to burn. But below, a new world had begun to form, built not by empires, not by warriors, but by a fierce alien girl who became gentle not because she was weak, but because someone gave her a reason to stop bleeding and to start living.